All right, let's dive into this one. The Dead by James Joyce. You guys really threw us a classic this time. We're headed to Dublin, turn of the century Ireland, and get this. We're crashing the Mrs. Morkan's annual dance.
Oh, it's more than just a party, though, trust me. Joyce sets up this whole scene, festive, music, food, family, but he's using it to explore some really deep human stuff. We're talking memory, love, loss, the whole works, what it means to really connect with other people.
And it feels like the party itself is a mini Ireland, wouldn't you say? Like you see all these clashes between tradition and modern life. Things are celebratory on the surface, but there's this definite tension simmering underneath.
Absolutely spot on. And as we meet the characters, they become so real. Each one has their quirks, their own baggage. But things get really interesting when Gabriel Conroy, our main guy, shows up with his wife, Greta.
Yeah, their entrance changes everything. It's like Gabriel is stepping onto the stage where he's about to have a night of, well, serious self-reflection. Some of it's celebratory, but some of it's going to be painful too.
And don't forget Freddie Malins. Always brings a touch of chaos. The Mrs. Morkan fussing over him, insisting on the best of everything sirloins, the fancy kind, expensive tea, top shelf stout. It really shows you what they're aiming for, socially.
Yeah, image is everything to them, especially with Mary Jane's music pupils around. But okay, let's talk about Gabriel himself for a minute. He's well educated, but he's almost too self-aware, right? Always overthinking, second-guessing himself.
And that's what makes him so interesting.
Yeah.
He's constantly struggling with all these anxieties, worried about his speech, feels like everyone's judging him. He even has these flashes of insecurity, like he's watching himself from outside, analyzing everything he does and thinks.
And then there's that hilarious story he tells about his grandfather, the glue boiler, and his horse, Johnny, the one that was obsessed with circling that King Billy statue. So classic Gabriel, trying just a little too hard.
It is funny. But Joyce is so good at mixing that humor with something deeper. Like on the surface, it's this funny anecdote. But under that, it reveals a lot about Gabriel's relationship with his past, his family's whole legacy, and maybe even, a slightly inflated ego.
Things get really interesting when he runs into Miss Ivers. Who knew a simple question about his writing could trigger such a strong reaction?
Well, remember, it's Ireland at a really tense time. Being called a West Briton was a serious accusation. You're basically saying someone isn't loyal to Ireland, that they're siding with English values.
Mm.
And Miss Ivers, she's a passionate nationalist. She sees Gabriel writing for that unionist paper as a betrayal.
So she's basically saying he's siding with the enemy.
In a way, yeah. And Gabriel gets all defensive, insists that literature is above politics, which of course tells you a lot about his own internal struggle. He's trapped between these two worlds, trying to figure out how to be Irish when he also feels drawn to Europe.
It's like he's downplaying his Irishness, like when he talks about biking through Europe instead of exploring his own country.
Exactly. Running from his roots. Finds comfort in other cultures, languages. Which brings up a big question for us. Is he really sick of his own country, like he claims? Or is it more about being afraid to face what being Irish really means to him?
His reaction to Aunt Julia's song, Arrayed for the Bridal, feels a bit muted too, especially compared to Freddie Malins, who's just gushing.
You picked up on that, huh? Good ear. Most of the guests get caught up in the emotion of the song. But Greta's really moved, and it's this deep reaction that Gabriel just doesn't get. This is where the story takes a turn. This is where we start to see the layers peeling back, get ready for Greta's past love to come to light, and the song that brings it all rushing back.
It's almost like the music unlocks this secret part of Greta, a place Gabriel can't reach, even though they're married. And you can almost feel his frustration. He's trying to figure out why she's so fixated on the Lass of Aughrim and this mysterious singer, Bartell D'Arcy.
And here's where things get really intense. When Greta finally tells the story of Michael Fury, this young man who loved her, who died, we see Gabriel change. At first, it's jealousy, possessiveness, but then it shifts. It becomes this humbling realization that he's facing a love he'll never fully grasp.
He's hit with the reality of Greta's past, this huge, powerful thing he's only ever glimpsed in her distant look. And as he watches her grieve, his whole sense of self starts to crumble. He sees himself in the mirror, and that image, it doesn't match the romantic ideal he has in his head.
That line, he had never felt like that himself towards any woman, but he knew that such a feeling must be love.
Wow. It's like Gabriel recognizing the limits of his own emotions, realizing there are these depths of love he's never even touched.
And that image at the end, The snow falling. It's so powerful. It covers everything, Dublin, the living, the dead. You get this feeling of unity, but also this really stark reminder of how fragile life is. It's like Joyce is saying, we're all connected in this cycle of life and death. We all carry our past with us. That snowfall is more than just a visual, though. It symbolizes this leveling, blurs the lines between the living and the dead, the past and present, echoes what Gabriel is thinking as he drifts off to sleep, his own mortality, and how fleeting the souls around us really are.
It just sticks with you, that last line. His soul swooned slowly as he heard the snow falling faintly through the universe and faintly falling, like the descent of their last end upon all the living and the dead. Peaceful, but also kind of unsettling at the same time.
It's the way Joyce uses language. It's masterful. That repetition, faintly falling, it creates this feeling of inevitability, like
Mm.
a slow drift into the unknown, and
Wow.
like the descent of their last end. What really hits you with how universal death is reminds us we're all part of something bigger.
And he does so much in just a few sentences. The whole story seems to lead up to this quiet moment. Gabriel's anxiety sort of dissolve into this bigger awareness of what it means to be human.
Exactly. And that's why the dead feels so timeless. On the surface, it's just this gathering, friends, family, but underneath, there's this whole web of emotions, history, big questions that really stay with you.
I swear every time I reread it, I find something new. A little detail, a hidden meaning. It's like peeling back layers.
It's so layered and complex, which makes it so rewarding. There's so many ways to interpret it. It sparks all these conversations, makes you question your assumptions about love, loss, identity, the whole human experience.
You've mentioned the historical context a few times. Can you talk more about how that plays into the story?
For sure. Think about when it was published, 1914. Ireland was on the verge of huge changes, political, cultural. The whole country was grappling with what it meant to be Irish. Independence, tradition, modernization, and all of that tension is woven right into the story, especially in Gabriel and his back and forth with Miss Ivors.
So Gabriel's struggle with his Irishness is like a reflection of what was happening in Ireland as a whole.
Exactly. He's drawn to Europe, uncomfortable with Irish nationalism. And that mirrors how divided Irish society was. Some people wanted a more cosmopolitan European identity. Others wanted to go back to traditional Irish values, language.
It's interesting how those different perspectives are presented, especially through Gabriel and Miss Ivors. It's not like Joyce is saying one side is right or wrong.
That's Joyce's genius. He
Yeah.
was all about nuance. He presents these different views in such a balanced way. You, the reader, have to wrestle with it all. There are no easy answers.
That's what I love about his writing. He doesn't tell you what to think. You have to think for yourself, see multiple sides, embrace how messy things really are.
And that's what makes The Dead so powerful. It's a story that keeps challenging us, forcing us to ask questions about our own lives, our relationships, where we fit into it all.
So after this deep dive into the dead, what do you think is the most important thing for our listeners to take away?
I think it's how deeply Joyce explores human connection and its limits. Gabriel's whole journey, triggered by Greta's past love, it just highlights the power of memory, how our past shapes us, even if we don't fully understand how.
It's like we're all haunted, right? Not by literal ghosts, but by ghosts of past loves, things we've lost, roads not taken. And sometimes it's the smallest thing, a song, a random encounter, the snow falling, that awakens those ghosts. Makes us confront who we are and who we might have been.
And maybe that's what Joyce is getting at. When we acknowledge those ghosts, when we embrace the full range of human experience, the good and the bad, that's how we come to understand ourselves and the world around us.
Like the story is asking us to look deeper, see the hidden parts of people, appreciate the beauty and complexity of even the most ordinary lives.
Yes, The Dead is a celebration of the ordinary, the little moments that make a life. That party, the Mrs. Morgan's party, with all the fuss and commotion, it becomes this microcosm of what it means to exist. The joy, the sorrow, the connection, the isolation.
And those contrasting emotions, those little shifts in perspective, that's what makes it so captivating. It's not just about a party, it's about what it means to be human. Life, death, love, loss.
And how even in death, there's still a kind of life, a presence that keeps influencing those left behind. The snow falling on the graves. It reminds you of that connection, that sense of continuity that goes beyond time and space.
So if someone's about to reread The Dead after listening to us, what's the one thing they should really pay attention to?
The details. Yeah, definitely the details. It's all about the little things with Joyce. The fights, the sounds, even smells, textures. He uses all of it to pull you right into the story. Like imagine yourself there. Feel the energy of the party, the warmth of the fire, that winter chill in the air.
It really does put you right there in that Dublin evening. You
Yeah.
see the world through these characters' eyes.
Oh, and don't forget about the music. It's practically a character itself, wouldn't you say? Music is what triggers all these memories, emotions. It leads to those moments where everything clicks. Really pay attention to the lyrics, how each character reacts, how it all ties into the bigger themes.
It's almost like the music connects everything, past and present, living and dead.
Absolutely. So, next time you read The Dead, let that music wash over you. Soak in those details, and let yourself feel it all. It might change how you see the story.
That's what makes it so timeless. It sticks with you, makes you think about your own life, your relationships, where you fit in.
Well said. The Dead is one of those stories that keeps giving. It makes you question things, explore those mysteries of the human heart, embrace how beautiful and fragile life really is.
So there you have it, James Joyce's The Dead. We went from a snowy Dublin night to a family party and ended up exploring, well, the depths of our own souls. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive with us. Now go back and experience The Dead again. See it with fresh eyes and really appreciate just how powerful it is.
And remember, there's always something new to discover in the words of a master storyteller. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of great literature. We'll see you next time.